Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to participate in this conference. In my presentation, I will explore intergenerational relations in times of war and social upheaval, using the ongoing war in Ukraine as an example. I would like to point out that intergenerational cohesion and support are crucial both for community and family resilience and solidarity, especially during wartime. And of course, the Russian war against Ukraine has created numerous challenges related to the need to support senior, the necessity of preserving and strengthening solidarity, and so on. And of course, when it comes to societal, thank you. When it comes to societal challenges in supporting all the people during wartime, the most significant are limited opportunities of the states and communities' capabilities due to the departure of social workers and destruction of infrastructure. The next one is worsening financial situation and declining health of seniors in the harsh conditions of war, and declining conditions for long-term care due to interruptions in the provision of utilities, limited funding for assistive equipment, and so on. On this slide, you can see that in Ukraine, households consisting exclusively of pensioners are facing significant financial difficulties. For example, 19% reported they were unable to save any money over the past 3 months. 77% did not have savings sufficient to cover their usual expenses for even 2 months in case of emergencies. And almost half said they could not afford to buy meat or fish at least twice a week. It is worth adding that families and children, multi-generational families, where all adults are retired, are in the worst situation. The level of deep deprivation of them is 87%. And the second highest value of this indicator, 82%, is in households consisting only exclusively of persons of retired age. We are also observed some changes in the receipt of social service by pensioners due to the war of Ukraine. For example, almost 11% changed the location where they receive social services. More than 23 were forced to apply for new additional services. About 7 began receiving necessary services on a paid basis, and 4 were forced to forego certain services they needed. I would like to say that Ukraine has a strong tradition of family-based intergenerational support, particularly in senior care. The data of this, on this slide provides insight into the situation during early months of the full-scale Russian invasion under conditions of extreme war stress. So, more than 2/3 of Ukrainians turned to their families for this support. Nearly half reported that they actively helped their relatives, and also 46 reported solving problems independently. When discussing family-based senior care during wartime, we must first and foremost highlight the challenges posed by war. First of all, it's separation of families due to the forced moving of working-age people with children. By the way, the majority of Ukrainians, 74%, reported being separated for some time, period of time for more or less close family members over 3 years since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. There are also constraints of family support caused by parallel caregiving responsibilities amid the mobilization of men for military service. For example, it might be caring for multiple older individuals or both seniors and children, and without men it's maybe challenging. I would like to share with you also some previous results of a survey conducted in Ukraine this year in January and focused on the experience of family-based care for seniors. You can see the responses, answers to the question whether there is at least one older person in extended family, in your extended family, who needs regular care or treatment. Such a person has been in your family in recent 2 or 3 years. And you see that 33% said they have such a person in their family now, and 24% said that they had such a person in their family in recent years. It's interesting that 87% of respondents have never used paid care services, even when a family member requires intensive support with daily care, self-care. It's primarily because of financial restrictions. And only a few percent currently use or have ever used institutional care facilities. Talking about the caregiving responsibilities, 43% of respondents have experienced caring for their parents, 24% for their grand or great-grandparents, 14% care for their father-in-law or mother-in-law, and 8% for their partners. About gender profile, 44 responded that they were primarily caregivers for older person during the last year. It's about men, while women were the primarily caregivers of all the family members in 59 of cases, and this data correspond with international data on the gender profiles of caregivers. But we see some gender disparities in daily high-intensive care. Daily or almost daily care for all the persons who need care is more often provided by women than by men, and a similar gender pattern is observed in responses to the question about daily assistance with health and medical care. And also 64 of women and 55 of men reported that they are the ones who provide daily emotional and social support to the senior family member. It seems that women's long life expectancy in Ukraine, more than 10 years, contributes to these gender differences in caregiving, and this survey shows that the highest burden of high-intensity daily care falls on women aged 50 years and above, who are often caring for their aging parents. Also, individuals aged 50 and above are among the vulnerable groups in Ukraine's humanitarian crisis. Many still actively care for their families and communities. Of course, during the war, the challenges for them increased. The main challenges are the first one: the number of children whose parents died during the war has grown in Ukraine, and many of them have been placed under the guardianship and care of grandparents and other older relatives. As of October 2024, almost 2,000 children in Ukraine have lost parental care only due to direct consequences of war, such as the death of parents or disappearance. Seniors' ability to help children is constrained by mobility, but health sometimes, and resource shortages compounded by the absence of young family members. Older Ukrainians also disproportionately affected by the war destruction and war-related displacement. Loss of social networks also reduce support systems for older caregivers, increasing caregiving burden. Despite all these circumstances, older people in Ukraine play a crucial role in supporting grandchildren and other family members during the ongoing war. They remain like vital pillars of support, primarily for grandchildren, and also actively contribute to the community, offering their time and efforts to help those in need. The main types of support provided by seniors in Ukraine during wartime are caregiving for grandchildren, sometimes alongside care for the oldest family members, emotional and psychological support, material support, despite financial hardship, and transmission of cultural and social values. As you can see on the next slide, senior Ukrainians have taken on primary caregiving responsibilities for grandchildren when young adults are absent due to military mobilization, displacement, or death. Even with limited resources, older people contribute food, shelter, and basic necessities to extended family members, sharing scarce resources to protect children. Older family members provide also emotional stability and helping children and other family members cope with trauma, displacement, and loss. And finally, older generation help preserve Ukrainian cultural identity and resilience during wartime. It's worth nothing that humanitarian organizations working in Ukraine during the war recognize these seniors' dual role as aid recipients and caregivers within families, emphasizing the need to support them to sustain this intergenerational solidarity. And on this slide, I would like to show how intergenerational support has been maintained or adapted in the time in Ukraine, along with key observations and some lessons. First of all, community initiatives. They have sprung up across Ukraine. They foster international solidarity through joint efforts of individuals of different ages in aid, rebuilding, uniting people through workshops, educational and other activities. I would like to note that many across age groups in Ukraine need psychological support now due to the war traumatic experience. Governmental and NGO programs are in place, but available aid remains insufficient. In Ukraine, during the war, the supported living network for seniors is growing, along with the specialist training through the supported living school. And our territorial communities are expanding escort and mobility assistance services for older persons and other persons with mobility impairment, including war veterans. And the key lesson is that families and communities require stronger and more systematic support, especially in the times of upheaval. In some cases, on the left, you can see 84 years old Valentin. He drove more than 1,200 kilometers in his old car to evacuate her children, grandchildren, and dog red Cocker Spaniel from the front line to the west of Ukraine. His family members were living in the Zaporizhia region without electricity, network connections, and just a small amount of food. And on the right, you can see representatives of different generations of veterans' families during a group psychological session. It's the project Path of resilience. As I near the end of my presentations, I also want to note, to say that amid Russia's brutal genocidal war against Ukraine, there are also countless problems and tragic stories of disrupted international ties, separated families, and the lack of intergenerational support. It's war and seniors still living alone near frontline areas, children who have lost parents and caregivings. These are painful realities, unfortunately. And let us not forget around 20,000 of children, 1,000 children have been forcibly taken or deported by Russian without their parents and other relatives. They were actually stolen. Ukraine continues to fight for each of them and for restoring family bonds. And despite all those threats to Ukraine independence, declining well-being, and high distress level, the war has strengthened social resilience and hope. And I think that families and communities in our country have shown remarkable resilience, with intergenerational support standing as one of the clearest expressions. And now I thank you for your attention and allow me to remind you that your support for Ukraine brings our shared victory over evil closer. Thank you.